meeting was going to be.
We're not going to elect tonight. That's
Oh.
just, we're just
Oh, so we're.
creating
That's the first article for town
Preview.
meeting. And all of these are.
a-
Oh, okay. Oh, so we're giving some extra.
Hey, Brian, we good to go? Just one more. Okay.
So I am going to add the Rosetta thing when we get to
When we get to, I think,
auditor to hear the report of the auditor.
like, I mean, because we're not going to listen to the report now, so that will be
Yes.
on the agenda of the meeting, so we can say that they wanted to extend their.
Yes. Good evening. Glad to see you here. I wish there was more filled. You got so many cookies downstairs. So if you're hungry when it's time to eat after, take some home or whatever. Our freezers are full. Anyway, it's good to have you here. I'm Bobby Fitch-Howman. I'm president of Brook Grange. And this is a project that Grange has had for probably most of its life because there are a lot of reasons for the existence of a Grange, but basically building community and having people's involvement in their community and in their government of their town is very important. So I'm very glad that you've shown up. Many towns do not have pre-town meetings, so you may not know the candidates. You may not know the issues. So I just ask you all to be respectful, and we do have a wonderful moderator, Rick Seymour, who will be running the meeting. He will give you instructions, and the only other thing I'd like to tell you is don't forget there is a Sugar on Snow supper this Saturday. There are 3 seatings, and that's also a Brook Grange project. And it's the first one of the season, so I hope you will sign up and come. Okay, so thank you, enjoy, and just be respectful, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rick Seymour. I got a slide up here. Bobby, when's the first seating of the Sugar on Snow? 4:30 this year, early. 3 seatings, 4:30, 5:45, and 7. Okay. No reservation needed, but it's good to make them if you can. Yeah, I think you've seen the agenda. It's going to be your candidates who are here introducing themselves, and the order is going to change around, but I'll give you the order of who we're going to hear from. Again, if they're here, first Tara Cheney by phone, if that works. Dolores Clark, Mike Sostak. These are all for select board, and then Sheila Morse, and then Tammy Sargent. And for the school district, Jocelyn Fitz, Kelly Young. Fritz. Okay, thank you. Fritz. You probably hear me say Fitz over and over. And then for auditor, if they're here, Lindsay Mitchell and Lisa Ford. And I ask you to hold your questions until they've all spoken, and then you can ask questions of any of them. I think that'll help things move along more smoothly and quicker. And then following the candidates, it'll be the select board presentation of the articles. And again, hold your questions for the select board. Excuse me?
Rita Lashway, is she on your list?
No, what's Rita?
Rita Lashway.
Auditor.
Oh, God, okay, sorry, Rita. Okay, let me put you on there. Rita, are you okay speaking after Lisa Ford? Sure. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, the select board will read the articles, and when they're done, they'll take Q&A. So hold your questions until all the articles are read. There aren't that many this year. And following the articles and the Q&A for the select board, there'll be a presentation by the school district. So any questions before we start? I guess not. Okay, I will call on Tara Cheney if she's available.
Okay, I have Tara on the phone, I believe.
board, and my 2-year tenure is up. I will be running for another 2 years for this position. But first, I want to thank my fellow selectmen and women, all the people in the office, and everyone that helped make this happen. My apologies for not being there in person. I am away with my family for my birthday. Speaking of my family has been a farming family in Guilford, Vermont for 100 years this year. Land preservation, community, and enabling people to afford to live here are high on my Guilford, Vermont priority list. So yes, I'm not happy with the increase in taxes and the cost of living in Vermont in general. Things need to change at a state level, but local government is very important. I have never been one that believes that my voice doesn't matter, quite the opposite. I believe one person can be a catalyst for ideas and movements, and that groups and coalitions can create change. Every day is different, but we sure are in some interesting, often challenging times in this country. And that trickles down to the local level. There are some radical ways of thinking, even in this town. The middle of the road is where I've landed and where I stand. I'm definitely more conservative and independently thinking than ever before. I'm a businesswoman and owner, and know firsthand that Vermont needs to do better helping out small businesses, which are the backbone of our economy. I do not align with the idea that anyone who is involved in local politics is crooked with an alternative agenda. This is a small town, and I appreciate all people who throw their hat in the ring to be on boards and committees. This takes time out of busy lives and away from work and family. To me, that matters. Being on the select board is a privilege, a sacrifice, and a commitment. I also do not align with the concept that anything that is going on, albeit weather pattern changes due to global warming, or making legislative, administrative, or quasi-judicial function decisions, has anything to do with the wrath of God. I believe one's religion, or lack thereof, is absolutely personal and has no place in the political arena. The last 2 years on the select board have been educational, challenging, and rewarding. I've said this before. We are human beings and come from all walks of life. It is not a prerequisite to have a law degree or to know all of the state statutes. The matters at hand are researched and presented to the best of everyone's ability. Being on the select board opens one up to scrutiny, and this is not always easy. I'm a sensitive person with a big heart, full of compassion and empathy, but do not have tolerance for disrespect in my life in general. I believe this allows me to stick to the facts and be reasonable and diplomatic. I want to make things as easy as possible for townspeople to have access to information regarding their community and the town's administrative and budgetary needs. Many systems have been implemented in the last 2 years, and policies have been updated and approved, which is in the best interest of all. The town is a business with employees, appointed people, committees, boards, budgets, overhead, and payroll. I think we have a strong administration and road crew with experience and excellent skill sets. We also have wonderful and capable volunteers and committee members. Guilford is and always has been great in my eyes. I love my beautiful hometown and feel an obligation to give my time as a select board member, like my ancestors who served before me. I am running for a seat on the select board for another 2 years and would greatly appreciate your support. I will do my best to implement and vote for ideas and actions that have the best interest of the people of Guilford. I will be fair, open-minded, and kind. As I am the CEO of 2 businesses and have a very busy work schedule, I may attend via Zoom occasionally, but will try to be in person as often as possible. Thank you for your consideration, and have a good evening.
Dolores, are you ready?
Okay, we give her a microphone.
Oh, yeah, can someone?
No, I got it.
You sure?
Yeah, I
You
guess.
got one?
Well, it's going to be, Dolores, people are going to be watching from home, and so you have a wonderful voice.
Yes. Okay, I am Dolores Clark, and I am running for the 2-year that Tara is running for. And I've lived in Guilford for 33 years, self-employed, paper hanger, painter, and small farm owner. I've worked,
Can you hold it closer? Hold
Yeah.
Closer to your mouth.
Okay.
There you go.
I've been attending the select board meetings for many years and have enjoyed the discussions between both members of the select board and of the public. My reasons, I'm doing this brief, I can't do that. My reasons for running are to have a board that is more open to public interaction with both the everyday along with, and the everyday runnings, and also with the budget. Thank you. And with the budget, can you not hear? With the budget process. It used to be that the budget meetings were held during regular select board meetings where the public could observe and ask questions, and now they're held during the day where there is no real, unless you're not working, they're held then. I would like to see that. That would be a change that I would work for. I believe it's very important to have input from the citizens of the town and get differing points of view in which to make more informed decisions. I would like to see us maintain maintain our infrastructure that we have before creating new stuff. There's a lot of people in town that are on fixed incomes and low incomes, and the taxes are just going over the top. I think that there should be a little more scrutiny in the budget. And yeah, I can't compete with what Tara said, but that's pretty much it. I'm not much of a public speaker.
Hi, I'm Mike Sostak, and I had this really resounding speech prepared, but since I'm unopposed, I won't deliver that to you tonight. Simply to say that Elizabeth and I live on Stage Road. Patty and I moved here about 25 years ago from Pennsylvania, and sadly Patty has died, as many of you know. But I love this community, and I come with about 50 years of experience in all kinds of different roles, technical and management and board roles, and I hope to be able to use those skills to help our town and our select board. So I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Sheila Morse?
Hi, Sheila Morse. I'm running for the open 3-year seat on the select board. I want to echo everybody else's appreciation for Tara's remarks. They were quite amazing. I think I only beat her in one thing, which is that I'm a longer time Vermonter than she is. My family was here for many generations. I was born in Brattleboro. My dad built our house on the Brattleboro side of Bonnievale Road many years ago, probably about 70. I think my first volunteer role was at the Brattleboro Hospital when they had candy stripers. So that just goes to tell you how old I am, because I don't think you can do that anymore. I moved 3 generations of my family to Guilford in 2006. I love this town, and my commitment to serve is deeply ingrained. Many of you know about my longstanding commitment to Guilford. I was appointed to the Select Board in 2012. To the Planning Commission in 2012. I was appointed to the Select Board. I was elected to the Select Board in 2015, and I served through September of 2019 when I had to resign. I had developed a chronic debilitating illness that took quite a few years to diagnose and a little bit longer to figure out how to treat. To my great relief, that treatment mostly alleviates the symptoms and it has allowed me to continue to serve our town in other capacities since 2019. Since 2019, Guilford continued to be a priority for me. I was the Emergency Management Director, and I am currently an Emergency Management Committee volunteer. I served on the Finance Advisory Committee from its inception until it was discontinued last year. I was your town administrator during the 2-year transition from our previous administrator to our wonderful Erica Elder. Most recently, I'm one of the volunteers engaged in creating the Guilford Guide. I am a supporter of and a strong believer in the integrity of our many volunteers and staff. I want to say that, I just want to take a little parentheses here to say that if you haven't read the town report, which is an amazing work, I think one of the things you will find out from reading it is just how amazing and extensive the volunteer community is in this town. For a town of 2,100-ish people, there are so many volunteers who are so committed to our community. The employees of Guilford and the members of the commissions, the committees, the clubs, and the nonprofit organizations always strive to make Guilford a great place to live, and I'm pleased to count myself among those people. The knowledge and the experience that I've gained over all these years of service means I know well the ins and outs and the ups and downs of our town. Over these years, the Select Board has positioned Guilford to hold steady and strong in meeting the challenges of internal and external political debates, as well as the constant battle of minimizing municipal taxes in the face of potentially reduced state or federal funding. I promise to continue work to study, promote, and implement actions that will benefit our town and all its residents. And I would be grateful for your vote on March 4th, or beforehand.
Danny Sargent?
Thank you. I'm Tammy Sargent. I'm running for the 3-year Select Board, and I didn't do a big, long speech. I basically I've lived in Guilford since 1988. My husband and I built a house on Creamery Road. I work with my husband around town. You might see me delivering firewood or plowing driveways or doing any number of things. Over the years, I didn't have labeled volunteer jobs that I did like some of the committees do, but I've done my share of volunteering between the school and scouts and helped the library with different functions. I think I would be a good fit. I tend to look at things differently. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm definitely not afraid to be questioned. So if anyone is wondering, why I want to run or how I feel about certain things, I'm more than happy to answer, but I'm not offended by being spoken to about topics that might arise in the school board or select board. Thank you.
Okay, for school district, we have Jocelyn Fritz with an R.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jocelyn Fritz. I'm kind of nervous, so forgive me. New to Guilford, been here a year, moved here from Florida. I'm a single parent, 2 girls. When I saw there was a vacancy for the school board, I wanted to get involved to keep the school I moved here for continuing the way it is for all the students. And so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Thank you.
Is Kelly Young here? Hi, Kelly.
My name is Kelly Young, and I'm running for the open position on the school board representing the town of Guilford. I want to take the opportunity first to thank Brian Reamer for the past year on the school board, his work on the school board this past year, and acknowledge Sean Murphy and thank him for all his years on this board and the ones previous, as well as everyone else who has come and dedicated their evening to this event. I'm a lifelong Vermonter who was born in Brattleboro, grew up in Brattleboro, and has lived in Guilford since 2003. I'm familiar with the challenges faced by rural Vermont. Both my husband and I remain committed to the values of the Guilford community. Our children attended Guilford Central School and Academy School, all four graduating from Brattleboro Union High School. As both a parent and a community member, I have firsthand knowledge of the schools in the district. I have dedicated 6 years of service across various local school boards, serving on the Guilford School Board prior to the school district merger in 2019, and subsequently on the Wyndham Southeast School District and Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union boards. During this time, I held the position of chair for the WSESD for 2 years, vice chair of the WSESU for 1 year, and chair of the Personnel Committee, in addition to contributing to various other committees. I spearheaded the creation of a comprehensive resource binder for the school board. As part of a 10-member board, I have enjoyed working with other individuals who have made the needs of our students their priority. It is only through our collective efforts that we are able to achieve the goals established by the Continuous Improvement Plan. I firmly believe that communication among all stakeholders is essential to achieving the best outcomes for students, who must remain our primary focus. As a skilled listener, I foster a collaborative approach to decision-making, ensuring that all voices are heard and valued throughout the process. Addressing students' needs while considering the impact of rising property taxes is essential. Their learning loss from the pandemic remains a challenge, and it is equally important to ensure students are well prepared for life after school. As an experienced board member, I possess the skills to balance the resources provided by the taxpayers for the education of our students. Though my background is informed by the voices and concerns of Guilford, board members are charged with ensuring that the interests of students throughout the district are prioritized by working closely with the principals of all the schools and the central office staff. I have institutional history and knowledge, both in terms of networking locally and statewide. I have an awareness of local and statewide issues that are critical as we consider the governor's proposed changes to the Vermont school districts. The community has raised concerns about the governor's proposal to reduce the number of school districts and its potential effects on our students and the quality of their education. I have been following the current budget to assess how it addresses student needs. I will engage in discussions, ask relevant questions, and seek clarity on student outcomes and preparedness. I will always listen to community voices as we assess the potential impact of the governor's proposal for our schools. I appreciate your support as I am ready to serve my community again. Thank you.
Are there any candidates for the school board from other towns who want to address this body? Okay, then we will go to the auditors. Is Lindsay Mitchell here?
Pretty awkward standing in the middle of the room. Hi, my name is Lindsay Mitchell. I'm running for the 3-year auditor seat. I feel I would be a good fit for this position because I am a bookkeeper and tax preparer by trade. If elected, I would ask that people can reach out to me if they had questions, and I would do my best to help them feel confident about their understanding of what's in the town report, and just be a person of reference and general support for the town. I didn't really prepare much else than that, so thank you for the time.
Lisa Ford?
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Ford, and some of you know me. I've lived here for 30 years, raised some kids. I own a small vacation rental business. I've done that for about 11 years, and I've served. I've had like about 600 people come into our community and visit our local businesses. So I'm really proud of that. And what I didn't say in the beginning of my presentation is that I'm running as a write-in candidate for the town auditor position, the 3-year term. And I just want to clarify, because my name is not on the ballot, that I'm competing against Lindsay, who you just heard from, and not Rita, who you will hear from. So my name is not on the ballot, and I am a write-in candidate. So what my other qualifications is that I've been on the school board in Guilford when Guilford had its own school board, and so I am familiar with preparing budgets that are based on taxes from our community members. I've also been the board chair and the finance committee chair of the Boys and Girls Club for about 6 years now, and so in that role, I've been through multiple audit reviews. I can say that the bookkeepers report to me, actually, and we work as a team with the administrators and the bookkeepers and the board to ensure that our revenue and our expenditures are accurate. It's a real team kind of position, and I look forward to going through an audit review for our community, and I know that that we have great administrators that work for us, as well as a wonderful treasurer. And so I think, with the oversight of the auditors and of the select board, we will ensure that accuracy.
Rita Lashway.
Hi, I'm Rita Lashway with a frog in my throat. I've lived here probably longer than most people here, which means I'm pretty old, but I have an interest in this town. I've lived here for all my life, and I want to get involved again. I drove school bus for close to 100 years. I can handle most anything, so I just want to be a part of it. And that's it.
Okay, are there questions for any of the candidates? Just raise your hand and the mic will come to you. Oh, and a question for Tara, she's on the phone. Do you mind, can someone give Bobby a break with the mic? Would somebody be willing to do that? Okay, Nancy, thank you. Any questions? Uriel.
Could I introduce myself before we get into questions? As a candidate.
He's a candidate.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm striking out here. Rita and Uriel.
It's okay. Hi, my name is Uriel. I wanted to formally introduce myself to you all. Formal introduction to all of Guilford. I am running for the town clerk position, unopposed. Some of you might recognize me as a new person in the town office at your local election, or probably riding or walking down Bonnieville Road. I moved here last year in May to work with Amy Frost over here at Circle Mountain Farm, which is where I also live. I consider myself to be a Guilford Free Library bulletin board success story. As one of my introductions and reasons of how I found out about the job of assistant town administrator, which I currently hold, was through that bulletin board. I don't think it gets any more Guilford than that. Being that I'm unopposed, I just wanted to formally introduce myself. I have a statement that is in the Guilford Gazette, if you haven't seen it yet. And I did write a big fancy speech, but I will save that maybe for a front porch forum post. Thank you.
Are there any other overlooked candidates in the room? No? Okay, let's go to Q&A. Any questions for anyone who's a candidate who's spoken tonight?
Can I question other candidates?
I think you can. But don't question their motives.
I just wanted to ask whoever's running, that would be Sheila, Tammy, Mike, if you plan on keeping the select board as it is, as far as having people that attend the meetings not really be able to ask questions in real time. And I would like to see the select board meeting open back up to how it used to be, instead of this kind of shutdown sort of thing. So I would like to ask everybody that is running, obviously you know what my feeling is, so the other ones.
All the select board know my feeling because I've been complaining about this since it first got changed. For any of you that don't know, select board meetings, we're no longer allowed to speak at agenda items. We are given a couple minutes before the meeting starts to talk, and we're given a couple minutes at the end of the meeting to talk. But every agenda line item, we are not allowed to participate. And I 100% agree with Dolores. We need to go back, and this should be, all of the community should be participating in select board meetings. So I would definitely want to change that.
I'm inclined to agree with both Tammy and Dolores. However, because that's how we used to do it in 2015, blah, blah, until things got very aggressively destructive in the meetings and the conversations. But I do not know, I wasn't part of the select board when the decisions were made in the past few years to limit conversation and comments to a certain period of time, nor was I part of, do I know why the decisions were made to discuss something at one meeting and then vote on it at the next meeting. It is possible, and I've never discussed this with the select board, that is to give the people time. You hear about it at one meeting, and then you can ask at the beginning of the next meeting about the issues that are going to be acted on. I don't know, but I would like to examine the issue with the current members of the select board, if I was on the select board, to see if something can be done to be more engaging. Having said that, I also remember that the select board meeting is in the public, but not for the public. So that is an important distinction.
Tara's on the phone.
Ready for you, Tara.
Hi. Having said that, I also remember that the select board meeting is in the public, but not for the public. So that is important.
It's a lag.
Aaron? Yeah.
Might not work.
Tara,
Yes.
Okay.
I'm here.
do you have a comment?
I do.
Okay. I think you need to turn off your volume on how you're watching it.
Oh, okay. All right. How about now? Shoot. Yeah. Okay, so I also do have mixed feelings about this. I know that what we're doing right now is in agreement with Vermont statutes. It's completely, many people do it like this. But I myself often feel like I want more interaction or the ability to answer questions. So I would like to bring that up with the select board and see what our options are. I know it's hard. Everyone has a chance, the public has a chance to speak in the beginning of the meeting and then at the end, and they're holding on to their questions, and then we don't have to respond. And I don't necessarily like the lack of interaction and clarity, but at the same time, we have definitely gone off topic. We've had disrespectful situations, and we also want to be able to get home at night. So I'm definitely open to discussing it with the other select board members, and I'm also definitely inclined to make a change.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I appreciate, Dolores, what you're saying. I really do. And in my life, I've I've run literally hundreds, probably thousands of meetings in my life, and I recognize if there isn't some kind of structure to them, they can go all over the place, particularly public meetings. And the danger of just having kind of a free-for-all kind of meeting is that it ends up shutting out a lot of people because meetings go on too long and people leave, and so there has to be some kind of structure. But I agree with what Tara said about the importance of interaction, and that's why, again, your point to me is well taken, Dolores, and I would like, as a select board, to discuss what you brought up and see if we can figure out something that would somehow have some structure to how dialogue occurs, but maybe find some way to have it be more interactive. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Michael?
Hi, I'd like to address this issue, not as somebody running, but as somebody who's been watching the select board in action for a while. People have expressed being upset, having problems with the limited period of question. I think they're right to be upset. But I think it's also true that people who've watched the select board over the last few years realize to what extreme degree they've gone to bend over backwards to allow people to talk. But there have been extremely disruptive portions of the meetings that people have pointed out. Anything that's going to address allowing people to speak is going to have to carefully address those issues too. As I said, people are right to be upset about this, but I think it's important to remember why it was necessary for the select board to take this really extraordinary issue. Thank you.
Cindy Clark?
Could he identify who he is? I don't know.
Michael Freeler on Maple Hill Drive. Sorry.
Oh, is that your question?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any other questions? Going once, going twice?
I have a question.
Oh, Nancy.
I'm Nancy Detra from Green River Road, and I'm addressing the auditor candidates. I know that the auditors look over the budget, but it seems as though they've spent quite a lot of their time putting together the town report, which is a great town report these last, always, but it's gotten even better. So I'm just wondering if the candidates have any experience laying things out and getting pictures into a format. I don't know how much of that the auditors do, but I know that it's something that's kept some auditors busy, some auditors in this town pretty busy at times.
Well, I don't know the specific program that's used, but yes, I'm very well versed with many different computer programs. I've dabbled with Photoshop, which I imagine is similar, so that's not something that I feel would be too great, a great leap for me to learn. I think it might even be Lightroom, I'm not sure. If anyone knows the answer to that question, feel free to throw that out there.
I also don't know the specific programs, but have been involved with layout. I've been a little bit involved with the Guilford Gazette, so I know what it goes into that. I was on my school newspaper. We did it by hand before computers, so I know how to do it that way too. And I would imagine that there is a professional designer who perhaps helps in that process. So, thanks.
Is there a professional designer? Yes.
Yeah, that's in the balloon.
There is one.
I think my understanding of the job is to do the auditor part, not the book. I think that'll all fall into place.
Okay, any other questions for the candidates, any of the candidates? Okay, then before we go to the articles in the select board, I forgot to make one announcement, which is that the cemetery commission is having a work day May 31st, it's a long way off, at the Elmhurst Cemetery on Route 5, to clean up the cemetery and be a nice event if anyone can join the cemetery commission. Okay, let's go to the articles.
Okay, so Article 1 is to elect a moderator for the ensuing year. We're not going to do that right now, I'm just reading it.
The Article 2 for to hear the report of the town auditors is not going to be happening this evening, so I'll have to wait till the town meeting on Saturday.
But I wanted to offer a brief addition from at the request of the auditors. In this year's town report, Rosetta Morse Weber's death was not listed among the people who had died. Rosetta died in a tragic accident, and her death certificate didn't come to Guilford, but she was born and raised here and would have been 40 years old this week, and I just wanted to honor her memory and support her parents in just having her presence be here in Guilford, so thank you. Oh yeah, sorry.
Article 3, to hear the report of the library trustees. VSA 22, section 144.
Article 4, to elect the following officers. Cemetery Commissioner, 1. Library Trustee, 2. Trustee of Public Funds, 1.
Okay, Article 5, shall the voters of the town of Guilford authorize highway fund expenditures in the amount of $1,149,557 for the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026, for which revenues will be raised through taxes and other sources via 17 VSA section 2664. And there was a 4% increase over last year. That's considered level funded even with the increased cost of some of the essentials like salt, gravel, culverts, and health insurance.
All right, Article 6, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $286,550 for the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department, who are here tonight and can step up and address this.
Where shall I stand? So those of you who may remember me from the school board know that I love a good PowerPoint. So we have prepared one for you tonight, but I'll be as quick as possible. But am I good to click or no? Okay, there we are. So we, in the spirit of trying to level fund budgets, we essentially did that except for one particular line item, which I wanted to talk to you all tonight about. And that is a new truck purchase that's in our future. Not clicking. Your computer? Yeah. Do you want it? Can you just? Oh, that's late plans. Yeah, I can just let you know. Cool. Okay. So we are requesting an $18,000 increase to the town appropriation. We're suggesting another $18,000 increase for next year for a total increase of $36,000. Initially, we had in our budget requested the $36,000 all this year, and then thought about it some more, and again, in an effort to be aware of the impact of the taxes, we thought it might be better to split it up over 2 years. I'll go into more detail about what that money is for. Overall, if you look in the town report, you'll notice that there's actually a $38,000 increase to the truck fund. So that's the $18,000 that we're requesting from the town, and also an additional $20,000 boost from the fire department raffle proceeds from this year. So they recognized the need to boost this fund, wanted to allocate some of the funds from that fundraiser to that line item as well. So you'll see a $38,000 increase to that. Only $18,000 is coming from the town appropriation. All right. So there are two capital funds that the fire department holds right now that the town contributes to annually. The first one is the truck fund. That's the one that we're requesting an additional $18,000 for this year and again next year. Our current balance in that fund is $180,000, and the current budget is $36,000 annually. So essentially, we're asking to double that over the next 2 years, so that the total amount will be $72,000. We also have a capital fund. The current annual allocation for that fund is $35,000, and the balance is $142,000. We're not requesting any change to that. All right, so when considering a new truck purchase in our future, there were three variables. Sorry, I have my notes. Three variables that go into that decision. We have the capital reserve fund that I just spoke about. We have debt service payments. We have I think it's $46,000 annual budget line item for debt service payments. That's used right now to pay for debt service on our engine, engine 2, which we purchased in 2019. And then you also have the lifespan of the truck. So these three variables all go into a decision on when and how much you can spend to purchase a new truck. We could increase the reserve funds in the capital reserve fund in order to lower the debt service payments, or we could level fund debt service payments now, which would level fund the reserve funds now, which would then increase debt service payments later. And for the truck lifespan, a longer lifespan of the truck could potentially increase the risk of failure, but it would also give us more time to build up funds to those capital reserve funds. So we formed a truck committee that's starting to look at these three variables and how we can play them off of each other to come up with the best options for us going forward. So these are the three options. Option 1 would be to level fund the capital truck fund at the existing $36,000 a year. Following NFPA guidelines, let me speak to that for just a moment. NFPA is the National Fire Protection Agency, I think I got that right. The NFPA is an independent nonprofit organization that provides guidelines. They're not regulations, but they're guidelines based on best practices and industry standards. And there's a lot of industry research that goes into that. And their recommendation for fire trucks is to replace them after 25 years. So we try to follow NFPA guidelines as closely as we can, although it's not always possible or practical. So in this case, option 1, we would level fund the truck fund payment at the existing $36,000 a year. We would follow NFPA guidelines and replace the truck after 25 years. The impact to this is that we would then see a significant increase in our debt service payments because the amount that we would actually have to finance for the truck would be so great that we would have to increase the line item for debt service significantly, almost double. Option 2 is kind of the inverse. So option 2 is that we level fund the truck fund at the existing $36,000 a year, same as option 1, but we would extend the truck life out an additional 10 years beyond what's recommended. So instead of 25 years, we would replace it after 35 years. The impact to this would be that, again, we would be extending it beyond what its recommended lifespan is, and the potential for unbudgeted repairs, the risk of being out of service during that time, also the potential to not be able to get the parts needed to fix it. But the benefit is that we would be able to level fund those debt service payments. Option 3, which is actually the one that's reflected in our budget, is that we increase the funding to the capital truck fund, doubling it over the next 2 years, so we would be up to $72,000 a year, and then extend the truck life just by a few years. So rather than extending it out the full 10 years, we can play with the time frame for replacing the truck based on the variables that go into the equation. So the impact of this option is that we would increase the capital fund. You can see the $18,000 over the next 2 years, and our debt service payment would be level funded. And actually, before we move on to that, talking about the external variables that go into the equation. At this point, we don't know what the purchase price of the truck would actually be. We have had a few quotes given to us. So back in 2019, we purchased the existing engine 2 for $560,000. A quote for the similar truck this year was $1.3 million. Lots of things went into causing that significant increase. The COVID impact that everybody recognized. So we don't expect that kind of an increase every year, but just to give you an idea of the challenge that we're up against right now with the cost of the truck. We also don't know what the trade-in value will be of our existing trucks. That's going to depend on the market at the time that we go to buy. And then finally, interest rates obviously are a variable that we can't control. So when we were considering these 3 options, option 2 or option 3 allowed us a little bit of flexibility to adjust to those variables by extending the truck life by 2 or 3, maybe 4 years, depending on how those variables fall, and still being able to level fund our debt service payments, which was important. And it allows us to keep the lifespan of the truck as close to the NFPA guidelines as possible. Okay, now I'm ready. So we did a capital plan timeline to map out the timing of when our trucks require replacement. The orange line at the top is NFPA guidelines. So you can see our tanker purchased in 2006 would be due to be replaced first in 2034. And then our engine 2031. Engine 1 was purchased in 2008, due to be replaced in 2033. Those are the 2 trucks that are coming up first. When our truck committee was formed, they evaluated the condition and the use of the trucks today and decided that it really would make more sense to replace engine 1 before the tanker, even though it's due to be replaced a few years later. That's because it's one of our frontline engines. It responds to most of the calls. It has the most wear and tear, and it really is needing to be replaced first. So the analysis that we did was based on replacing the engine versus the tanker. The red line beneath the orange is what we're proposing in our option 2. And the purple boxes indicate the debt service payments that would need to be made following the purchase of the truck. So the white star indicates when the truck has to be purchased. Right now, believe it or not, there's like a 3 to 4 year lead time to when you place the order for the truck to when we get it. So that's why we're starting this analysis so early, so that we can make sure to get an order in on time. So we currently finance trucks for about 10 years, so that's why you see the purple boxes. And I think the intent here was just to indicate that we put a lot of thought into which truck to replace, when was the right time to replace it, and how we could get as close to the NFPA guidelines as possible. The other thing to point out on this slide is that we're attempting to minimize the number of years where we would have multiple debt service payments. So you can see our engine 2 is not getting replaced until the end of the debt service payments for the tankers. So all of those variables went into our analysis. And that is the end of the presentation. Yeah, I have a couple appendix slides that we don't have to go through, but what the NFPA is and why we try to meet those standards, but that they're not actually requirements, they're just guidelines. So we don't have to go through the rest of them, but unless there's questions. Anne?
So I got lost at the beginning.
Okay.
When you said we thought of doing 36,000 in 1 year or spreading the 18,000 over 2 years.
Yeah.
And so then you said, and so the budget would double. And I went, wait, I got confused there. And then I tried to hold my question. But
Yeah. So the current line item is 36. We want it to double to get up to 72. So it would be an increase of another $36,000. But we thought it was too much to ask for that full 36 this year. It would have been an over 12% increase to the budget. So instead we said, let's split that 36 up into 2 payments of 18. So this year we increased by 18, next year by another 18 for a total increase of 36.
So what doubles that?
What doubles is right now the annual payment is 36. That line item doubles. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
A question about your wonderful PowerPoint.
So we can ask Mike. Oh, sorry. Thanks,
Yeah.
Please identify yourself.
Michael Kramer, Maple Hill Drive. Just had a question about the details in the PowerPoint. Are those available in the annual report, or are they otherwise available for people who wanted to look through them in detail?
Sure. Yeah. I'm happy to send this presentation to anybody that wants it, or maybe I can send it to Erica, and I don't know if it could be posted on the website or something. Yeah, happy to do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Dolores had a question?
Yeah. I was just wondering when the debt for the building of the, that was rolled over, so where does that fit in the budget? Was that rolled over into the truck?
Really good question. Yeah, so at the beginning, I think there was the slide that showed the 2 different capital funds that we have. One is the truck fund that's funded annually at $35,000. The capital fund, which was the building payment that we rolled over, that's $35,000 a year. Both of those funds are building, I think it's the next, yeah. So both of those funds are contributed to annually. We would like to be able to use some of the building capital funds towards the truck purchase if there aren't any other major building purchases that need to be done. So that would be part of the analysis that we would do at the time, is to evaluate the balance of both of those accounts and figure out what amount makes sense to put towards a down payment on a new truck. Does that answer your question? We would combine them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why you would need that much in the building fund.
Yeah, so that's what we're thinking, is that we might not need all of that, and we could use some of it for the truck. We wouldn't want to use all of it in case there were building repairs that needed to be done down the road, but we have that fund growing, and it makes a lot of sense to use it for the truck since that's the biggest capital purchase that we have coming down the road.
So you're asking for an additional $36,000 or $8,000 on top of that 30,000 that we're paying.
Yeah, so the two funds, we're not asking for any increase to the capital fund. That's the $35,000 a year. That would still continue.
We're still paying that.
Yes.
So it's
Yep.
additional.
In addition to that, yes. It's an additional $18,000 from what you're paying today
For this year.
for this year. Yep. And then another 18 next year for a total increase of 36. Yep.
Ellie's got her hand up in the back of the room.
Thanks, Beth. Ellie Lyon, I live over on Merrineck Road. So I just want clarification, since those numbers that you're talking about up there are not the numbers that are in the article. So Article 6 talks about the 286,550. And are you saying that's your capital reserve fund?
No, that's the total budget. So the 286 is the total, 286,550. So that's our total budget. We're just asking for an increase of 18,000 to one line item of that budget.
Okay, so now we go to Article 7, and you were saying that 35,000 is the truck fund?
No, that's the second bullet. That's the capital fund that's not changing. I know it's confusing. That's why I did the presentation. So I appreciate the questions. Yes, that's the capital fund, which because that loan, that debt service was carried by the town, it stayed as a separate article. It wasn't rolled into the fire department's budget, whereas the truck fund is part of our bottom line budget. So the truck fund is part of your 286. I hope. 268. Does that make sense? Do you want me to say that again?
No.
Okay.
But it's just hard to hold a separate budget there and two line items here, which we can't tell where it goes.
Yeah, so.
We'll have to look at that report, which is something you're going to pass on.
Yeah, the capital fund, which is Article 7, is not being touched. So we're only proposing an increase to Article 6 in the amount of 18,000.
Okay, if there's no other questions, can we move on to the next article? Thank you, Bev.
Yeah. Thank you so much for putting together that report.
All right, I'll read Article 7 now. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 for the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department Capital Improvements Fund? This is the same as it was last year, and voters approved this annual appropriation in 2020. If there are any questions, we'll ask the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department to speak to this.
Next article.
Article 8, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 for health care and rehabilitation services of Southern Vermont HCRS to provide services to individuals, families, and children who are living with mental illness, developmental disabilities, and substance use disorders. 24 VSA, paragraph 2691. HCRS is in the third year of their 3-year petition requirements before being added to the social services article.
Okay, so the next is Article 9, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $14,730 for the following human service organizations: 24 VSA Section 2691. Interaction, formerly Youth Services, for $1,605, and that group is to provide programs in prevention, intervention, and restorative justice services for area young people, individuals, and families. The Women's Freedom Center, $1,000, to end physical, sexual, and emotional violence against women and children. Groundworks Collaborative, $1,000, to provide food, shelter, and supportive services. Retired Senior Volunteers Program, RSVP, for $485, to engage people 55 and older in volunteer work at local nonprofits. Senior Solutions, $850, to promote the well-being and dignity of older adults. Brattleboro Area Hospice, $300, to provide services to individuals at the end of life and their families. The Gathering Place, $500, to provide services and activities to elders and adults with disabilities. Brattleboro Senior Meals, $350, to prepare meals for the over 60 and disabled population. AIDS Project of Southern Vermont, $350, to provide services to people living with HIV/AIDS, their partners, and immediate family members. The Mover, formerly Connecticut River Transport, $250, to provide a public transportation system. Southeastern Vermont Community Action SEVCA, $2,040, to alleviate the hardships of poverty, provide opportunities to thrive, and eliminate root causes of poverty. Guilford Cares, $6,000, to provide services to community members with a focus on elder residents. And you'll recall that Sevitz was voted down last year. They did not successfully petition for inclusion in Guilford's social service appropriations policy. So that's the list.
Sorry, Miranda,
Yeah.
Miranda, I didn't hear what you said last. Sorry, what was not?
Oh, Sevitz, the Economic Development Group. Remember last year they came and this year they would have needed to fill out a petition to be on the warning the way HCRS did, but they did not do that. So there wasn't, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
All right, Article 10, shall the voters of the town of Guilford authorize general fund expenditures for operating expenses of $805,776, of which $641,116 shall be raised by taxes and $164,660 by non-tax revenues for the fiscal year July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026 under 17 VSA 2664. So just a couple of notes on that budget. This year's budget adds only $1,780 to the previous year budget, which represents actually huge cuts in the budget. Everybody scaled back. I think you heard Miranda say earlier this evening that a level funded budget would be a 4% increase. Ours is 0. Law enforcement, the $68,000 that residents approved last year has been pulled out of the general reserve fund, so that's no longer in your taxes. It'll be assigned to fund balance, and as work continues on the regional policing effort. Legal services, that expense has come way down based on where we are in year to date, which is a bonus. And then other reductions are HRA Planning, Conservation and Recreation Commission will draw from reserves this past year. Health insurance premiums for employees are increasing, shockingly increasing across the board if you took a look at the town report and saw the numbers.
Question about,
Hey, can we hold questions till the end? Is that okay? Okay.
Oh, did you want to announce it?
no, it can be at the
Oh,
end.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
It's not exact, I think we should go on to the article.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll do that at the end, the questions too.
I'll read Article 11. Shall the town authorize the town treasurer pursuant to 32 VSA Section 4791 to collect current taxes without discount?
Okay, shall the voters authorize payment of current taxes on October 15th by physical delivery or online payment to the tax collector before 5 p.m. on that date per 32 VSA Section 4773. So that's postmarked payments received after 5 p.m. on October 15th will be late. This is the only select board promoted article this year. The town's treasurer would like to make this distinction due to the recent unreliability of the Postal Service. This is something the voters will need to approve at town meeting per 32 VSA Section 4791.
Ellie, do you want to talk about that after we get, is there questions about it?
Whatever your pleasure.
Yeah, let's get through the articles and then go to questions and answers.
Okay, so Article 13, shall the town vote that overdue taxes will bear interest at a rate of 1% per month or fraction thereof from the due date of such tax to be charged after October 15th per 32 VSA Section 136. And this is the standard article that's voted on every year.
Article 14, transact any other business that may lawfully come before said meeting. Non-binding votes can be proposed at this time.
Okay, we'll take questions now on the articles for the select board. Yes.
Yeah.
Who's got the mic? Oh. Hey, Nancy, are you willing to circulate?
I don't think I need a microphone, but thank you. I'd rather sing.
Okay, can you identify yourself?
Deborah McNeil.
Okay.
Sleep on Road. So my question is, with the $68,000 for law enforcement, what happens to that $68,000? What funds did it go into?
I can answer that last part of the question, and then Chip can give a little more detailed description, but it's still in our general budget currently. At the end of fiscal year 25, which we are in now, if it hasn't been spent, or any portion of it that hasn't been spent, our auditor has recommended it goes into an assigned fund balance fund. So it just will stay there, and it won't be swept into the reserve fund.
It won't go into anything else. Will it
stay
still
in law
maintain it as a law enforcement fund?
Yeah, so because we're still working on the
Right.
process, Mark is still
I
working
knew
on
that. I
it.
just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
it was going to maintain its
Yeah,
status
that's
as law
that was
enforcement.
the recommendation to do with that, and I think Chip might have a little more.
Yeah, sure.
detail.
It's so it's going to be reserved for law enforcement endeavors. For example, like Sheriff Mark Anderson is still working on his regional policing. As that progresses, it could be used in conjunction with another town, Vernon, for example, to
Right.
form a partnership like some towns in Vermont have done. Could be for more radar speed check signs if residents, address that and want it across town. Basically, any general law enforcement issue or concern.
So they're still working on collaborating with other towns,
Yes.
possibly in the future?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You got it.
That's it.
Next question.
Sure. Will that fund be an interest-bearing fund that it's put in? That,
It won't be a separate fund, it will be part
will
of
it be
003
collecting
still.
interest?
Ellie, does 003 collect interest?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, yep.
I believe it will, yes.
And I'm not much on bookkeeping, but, so that was 68,000 that was in the budget last year. And, let's see, we're, I don't know how many, last year's whole, so we're like $5,000 less than last year. But we don't have that 68,000 in there. So I'm finding it hard to, I'm just wondering where the level funded part comes in. If there's 68,000 that we haven't spent, and you're saying, well, we're keeping the budget pretty much the same. Where's the 53? I'm not seeing how that balances out. You know what I mean?
Sort of. If you look at the very bottom line, that is it is 0%, and whatever you said.
What is 0%?
The increase is a 0% increase.
Yeah, but not for, well, if you take out the 68,000 that we didn't vote on, then we should be 68,000, no?
Well, there's a lot of other things that are raising in price, health insurance among them. If you want to ask a specific question about it.
Okay, then I'll ask, while I have the hot mic here, I'll ask about, last year, I just talked to Ellie about this the other day, but I'll bring it up again. Last year, we voted to split half and half, part-time between treasurer and assistant. And in it, what we voted for was not more than $14,500 to be split between those two positions. This year, and the assistant, your assistant, the actual was $4,300, 25 budget was $11,440. Now the treasurer wants an extra. She wants 28,000, 24,000, 23,000. So I'm wondering if we voted on something last year that said not more than 14,500 to be split between those two positions, how can we all of a sudden create a whole new position or addition to that position without that going before the taxpayers and,
I will clarify about that article from last year. That was an increase above the existing budget, not to be more than 14.5, I believe. So that assistant treasurer position already had a budget, and we were increasing it some, and in addition, adding my assistant.
so is the treasurer, well, your assistant didn't go up this year, but the treasurer's went up double.
Elliot, do you have one?
Sure, where's the mic?
Here it is.
Yep. Thanks, Nancy. Dolores, after you came, I'm Ellie Mayanen, treasurer, delinquent tax collector. After you came into the office, was that yesterday? I went back and looked at the numbers that we used to create the budget, and also looked at the changes that have occurred in the office over the last 2 years. So to clarify what we had talked about at the start of this year, fiscal year 25, I was working at 40 hours a week and had a 10-hour-a-week assistant. And Uriel was there for the assistant town administrator for 10 hours. In August, that changed, and we had to adjust hours. So my job as treasurer, delinquent tax collector, and Algiers Fire District finance person got chopped to 25 hours a week. I became interim town clerk, 15 hours a week. Uriel was the assistant town administrator, 10 hours a week, as I said before. He added 15 hours a week as assistant town clerk. So total hours for town clerk related was, I was 15, Uriel was 15 as assistant. And Marlene, who started at 10 hours as my assistant treasurer, jumped to 15 hours, a total of 15 hours, or up to 15 hours, to pick up some of the slack of my treasurer's duties having to decrease. I feel like this team came together to address an immediate gap in personnel, and we worked the best we could to immediately do a general election, immediately get tax season running, and it's a very busy time of year. And we even had help from Pete Hetzel, which was essential. As I started to work with our assistant town clerk to train, and Pete helped to train our assistant treasurer, because I can only do so many things at one time. So the figures that were put in for the budget for this year, for fiscal year 25, had to be adjusted left and right in order to meet the need and get the work done. I don't know any other way to explain it. So for fiscal year 26, first you asked me a question, was I going to continue as assistant town clerk? Because whoever wins the election for town clerk is going to need an assistant town clerk. And I told you I would step up and give 5 of my hours as assistant town clerk until whoever's in that new position can then appoint their own assistant town clerk. I don't expect I'll be in that position long. We're asking for assistant treasurer to increase their time, because there's some really important goals that need to be met in the next year, or 2 years actually. One of them, some of the goals that we have are to increase the number of payment agreements with delinquent tax collectors. Because if you look in the report, you will see that we have quite a number of delinquent property taxes. To this year, another goal is to move forward with at least 5 tax sales in fiscal year 26. Also to support the reorganization of Algiers Fire District and work on their past due balances. I would like to also have as a goal to regroup with my assistant treasurer, review all financial responsibilities that we have, and really divide and conquer so that we are covering everything that needs to be covered. And also along the way support the new town clerk as much as we can, because again, we are working as a team. I also want to throw out the reminder that I am getting paid hourly, which is great. But it also means that, as I introduced last year, I do not get the money as a delinquent tax collector from the penalty that's collected. I'm taking an hourly wage. And that money that has traditionally been given to the delinquent tax collector is now going into the general fund, and that was to help fund the position of the assistant treasurer. So in this fiscal year, the amount that moved over was $19,040. That went back into the general fund to help pay for that position. I also do the work for Algiers Fire District, do their billing and collection, and that brings the town income of about $8,500 a year. So those two things are bringing money into the town office. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for an assistant for 20 hours a week. I also would like to decrease my hours in the long run. So my goal would be to get down to 30 hours a week. It would also save the town money because an assistant gets paid less than a full treasurer. So,
Can I just ask for clarification? When you first started, you said you worked 40 and 10. 40 hours at something and 10 at something.
40 at 10.
And I was confused. I didn't know if you meant
It's
out of a 40-hour week, you do 10 hours at something, or are you actually working 50 hours a week is where I was going.
Okay. I believe I said I was starting at 40 hours a week, and then I moved to 25 as treasurer and 15 as town clerk when I became interim town clerk. Do I work overtime? Honestly, yes.
Yeah, I just misunderstood what you said.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted clarification.
Am I allowed to take more questions, or do you need to address those?
We have a question up front.
It's more of a comment. My name is Kim Frost. I'm sorry. Yeah. So hi, my name is Kim Frost. We just moved here from Brattleboro in May. So we're in Sweet Pond. And I just want to say I'm listening to everything that you do, and I give you a lot of credit. And I think that with all the new legislation, especially with the tax sales that are coming up, and all the voting that you have to take care of and all that new legislation, that to need an assistant to help you with that when you're being pulled in 16 different directions is not unreasonable. So I just wanted to support you in that.
Cindy Clark.
I just have a question. Last year, they were voted to only have the town clerk work 30 hours. Is that still in place?
The budget for the town clerk in this report is 30 hours. And there's an assistant for 10.
And that's required by law.
It is required by law. And that's actually what it was before, too, 30 hours and 10.
That was voted at town meeting? Was that the way it was voted? Because they...
Our previous town clerk had assistants, yes, and it was 30 and 10.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Tammy?
We all noticed the health insurance went up considerably. My question is that health insurance that we're proposing for fiscal year '26 based on the same amount of staff that, do we have the same amount of people that are going to be getting health insurance? Or do we have additional people that are going to be, that weren't on there saying 24 and 25?
Emily?
Thank you. So in terms of office staff, it is the same number. Because one.
Staff, I mean the number.
Right, and in terms of the highway, I'm thinking Dan retired. We had a new person come in. It's the same as it was, the same as last year. Yeah.
Same amount of people.
I got one on this. Gary Knapp, Weatherhead Hollow. I got one on this insurance deal. Are we shopping around at all? Or are we just paying the bill? Or attempting to pay the bill?
I'm sorry? There is not much to shop around for, or with, or however we want to look at it. I personally have not. My plate's been kind of full over the last year. That is a very good suggestion, though, and I think we need to get someone who knows a little bit more about insurance than I do. I know Penny, when she was in the office, had great knowledge about insurances, all kinds of insurances. But Gary, I think that's a great idea, and it should happen soon.
Other questions?
I have a few just relating to what's in the book here.
Okay, Dolores.
Okay. On page, well, I don't know what page it is because I didn't write it down. Under the asset management projects, 2025, and it doesn't say, it says library maintenance, or something under the library maintenance, $25,224. Page 5. And I was wondering what that was for. And there's a grant for $4,000 or $5,000, something like that. I was wondering what that was.
Are you talking about library maintenance line?
Uh-huh.
Right, so that is part of the asset management schedule that was put together based on the old one from 2018. That this is the time that this is coming up. So that's a planned project. I don't have any plans for it exactly right now, but that is just something that's in the hopper coming up. All these other ones, you see that there's an asterisk on it. That means that work has started.
Yeah, but I was just wondering what is that for? You have a very dedicated, down to the $224. So what is it for?
That was probably, if you look at the website, there's a more detailed list of things that goes into that final number. It's, I think, some basic repairs on the stairs that lead to the back door itself. I know the basement door is wanting replacement, things like that. A new heater, I believe, not heater, but boiler, I think, is on that list. So all that information is on the website along with the asset management schedule.
And under the asset management, why is, if it's not an asset at this point, why is the Algiers traffic calming study under the asset management?
It is regarding a road, so that is an asset of the town.
Okay. On page 17, there's a balance reserve fund. What does FYE 23 ASE per audit mean? AJE. Whoops.
That's an adjusting journal entry. The auditors make a lot of those at the end of the year to move things into the right places if they need to. Things like surplus balance in one fund moves to a different fund per standard thing that they always do.
Can you all hear Erica?
Sorry, I'm quiet.
No?
Ellie might be able to answer that.
So
specific question better than me, but that's what an AJE is.
Well, why was it taken from the reserve fund? Where does it go then?
So that
Is
was
that-
that was a revenue deficit, I believe, of 189,146.47, probably based on delinquent taxes. And so that, being in those parentheses, that came out of the 007 reserve fund.
Is that James Bond?
Kind of. And moved into 003 to balance it. That was that journal entry.
Okay, and
Right.
one more question is, what is the Algiers family housing thing that was, got $510,000 in it on page?
Yeah, that's a deferred loan that Wyndham Windsor, I think, took out.
That who
And
took out?
I think it was Wyndham Windsor. I get a lot of reporting on that. I have to report on that once a year, but it's deferred until 2035, I think. So
That has nothing to do with our budget, ever?
no,
Yeah.
it's not part of our budget.
Okey
It just
dokey.
is part of our reporting.
Just part of our book.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let somebody else talk.
Other questions?
It's right here, I could ask a couple.
Can we go to the district report? Oh, Tammy, sorry, you
Do
got
you
one?
mind if I ask, because she was close to where I was looking too? On page 15, Tammy Sargent, sorry. The bottom of page 15, it says road resurfacing. There's a transfer out to the road resurfacing fund, and I can't find the resurfacing fund in the town report. I didn't know if I'm just not seeing it, or...
I don't know how to find it. I can tell you that
I'm sorry, what? On the bottom of page 15, I'm asking about the resurfacing fund, and I couldn't find the resurfacing fund in the town report. I didn't know if I'm just missing it, or if you can point it out. And right here.
So Tammy, I'm noticing that the resurfacing fund is number 016, which it says right there in that line item. And I'm not mistaken, was this a new fund last year? And it could be possible that I forgot to put it in, because it's a new fund, and we looked through all the existing funds that was in the book last year, and we forgot to put it in.
was it new for 25?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and
So it
look at
wouldn't
it.
be in this report.
Oh, that's right, because this is 24.
Yeah, so we don't know how much is in that, or if it's a brand new fund. If it were in this book, it would say there's only $130,000 in that fund.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And that must be what happened with the other one too. So on page 18, last year when it got voted for, at some point, it got voted to close that Sweet Pond Fund and got turned into the Guilford Conservation Fund. That's also not in the town report, I
Not
believe.
for FY24.
Correct. But it
Okay.
does show that
Because-
there's zero balance there for Sweet Pond.
Right, because we did the zero for that, but we started the new fund. I just thought that would be in here, but not until next year's town report, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was it for my questions. Oh, well done.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no more questions, can we hear from the school district? Brian? Thank you for your patience. Good questions. Yeah, sure.
Good evening, I'm Brian Reamer. I'm a member of the school board, the Wyndham Southeast School Board. So we represent not just Guilford, but also Brattleboro, Putney, Dummerston. I'd like to share with you a few of my slides for this evening. And I want to get to what I think probably most people are most concerned about, and that is what's going to happen to our taxes. So, Guilford, we expect our taxes to be decreased this year, our school tax. And I've got an example set up here. If your property value is about if it were $100,000, the tax rate is 1.479. So your taxes on per $100,000 would be $1,479. Okay, that's a decrease from last year of about $90. Okay, so for every $100,000 of your property value, you can expect $1,479 in taxes, and for each $100,000, a decrease of another $90. Okay, so these are estimates. I'm only giving a very big, high-level picture here. There's a lot more detail in the budget, of course, but I just wanted to emphasize something that I think probably most of us are really concerned about. Also, the tax that you actually have is also influenced by your income. So if you have a lower income, this may be even a lower number for you. And in order to get these low numbers, you need to file your homestead property tax credit. You need to do that before April 15th is the actual deadline. Ellie, if you, of course you know Ellie, she's been back there all day. She's waiving now one of those forms that you can take with you this evening if you haven't got one already. So I want to talk about I want to talk about where the money goes, and I'll talk about what the actual budget is in a moment. I've got a pie chart here. The biggest area is 49%. This is direct instruction, so our teachers and what the teachers do in the classroom. The next largest area is 19%, this purple region. This is special education spending, so that's also what happens directly in the classroom. This orange area, 7%, is for social workers, counselors, and nurses. So that's directly improving or the quality of school life for our children. The next area here in white is 4%. That represents the technology, the libraries, and also professional development of our teachers and staff. The green area, 13%, is maintenance on all of our facilities. There are over 10 schools that we have in the whole district. The yellow area, 6%, is the administration and the school board itself. So that's what the whole picture looks like. Okay. Next slide, please. The actual budget is $67,736,630. Again, this is for the whole district. What I am excited about here is, a number of things. One is that this is only a 1.1% increase. Those of you in the back, I hope you can see the decimal point here. It's not 11%. It's 1.1% increase over last year. This in spite of rising costs. We talk about the cost of healthcare here in town. It also went up for the school district, I think like 16%, is that? 11%, I'm sorry. So even though we had cost increases, our whole budget overall only increased by 1.1%. So this budget, we think, as the school board and the administration, is what is going to be necessary to fund the four major goals that we have. One is to increase our literacy rate by 10%. Second one is to increase our math scores of our students by 10%. The third is to increase our graduation rate. Right now, we're below the state average in graduation rates, so we definitely want to increase that. And then lastly, to increase the student sense of belonging, because this is an area which when students do feel like they belong in school, then they tend to work harder, raise their scores, and tend to graduate as well. Okay? And one more slide to share with you. I want to remind you of some of the meetings that we have coming up. So next week on the 24th, there's a meeting at BUHS in the auditorium, which is about the governor's education proposal, a proposal for education reform across the state. This is a presentation. It's a chance to ask lots of questions. We have invited the legislators from our area to come and answer questions. So it would be a good time to learn about that proposal that the governor has. On the 27th, so that's also next week, there's a candidates forum. This is only on BCTV, but you can learn more about our candidates. And I'm not sure, maybe there's a way for people to ask questions during that forum. Do you know? Okay, so maybe that's not the way to ask lots of questions, but it is a candidates forum nonetheless. Yeah.
It'll be questions from the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So there will be it's moderated by I think the Commons, and they will be asking questions of the candidates. And then I want to emphasize that we have our annual meeting of the school board at BUHS in the auditorium, March 18th. This is when the budget is actually voted on. So it's pretty much an up or down vote. If people do want to change the amount, that's possible, or by a certain amount, but you cannot change for a specific line item. So anyway, that's the formal process for that. It doesn't happen in the voting booth. And Ellie, you have your hand up. Are you going to remind me of one other meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
March 11th, the public informational meeting about the budget.
Yes, that's a regular school board meeting, March 11th, and that would be a good time to come and ask questions, specific questions about the budget and how it fits in with those 4 goals that I mentioned earlier.
Will that be on BCTV?
That's, yeah, that's always broadcast on BCTV, yes. So you can attend in person or you can attend via Zoom. Actually, not BCTV, but they run the equipment, but it's broadcast over Zoom. Okay? Yes, Lisa.
So I was just at the BUHS Leadership Council, and it came up that we have one of the highest.
You hang on for the mic.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ford. Legislator. So at the BUHS Leadership Council, and then also legislators have told me this, that we have one of the highest, most expensive districts in the state, and I just wonder what that's about. Like why?
Okay, so I don't know, I haven't heard that myself, and Sean may have an opinion about it. What I would say is that our per pupil cost is within the window that is allowed by the state. So it's admittedly, it's up toward the upper part of that range, but it's within the range. If it's beyond that range, then we would be penalized as a district. So I think from that perspective, it's justified what we're spending on students. And I think we're also beginning to see some good results, some improvements in some of those measures that I mentioned earlier. As a result of the pandemic, I think academic performance everywhere declined, and we're beginning to see some improvement from that now, and it would be really helpful for us to continue that direction, that positive direction with the budget as we have planned.
Do you know what your graduation rate is?
Do I know offhand what the graduation rate is? I don't have that information in front of me. I have, yeah.
It's like 70%, sorry. It's very low.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't have it right with me. If you want, I can send it to you when I get home, or it's a question you could bring to the next board meeting if you wish. And Sean.
Actually, the graduation rate is Sean Murphy. The graduation rate it's sort of flexible because what happens is people come into the town as freshmen, and then they leave as a junior, but they're counted. So Hannah Parker, who's the principal of BOHS, said at the last board meeting that she's going to try to clarify what the actual graduation rate is. So it looks possibly a little bit worse than it really is. I would just like to say, I think Brian has done an excellent overview. From my viewpoint and from what I see at the Wyndham Southeast School District, is a very high functioning district. And I think that's really important going into what is coming down from Scott's proposal and so forth. Our capital plan has been implemented to the T for the last 5-7 years. So all of the schools have had major renovations, and a lot of that was done under ESSER funds. The Guilford School has all new HVAC work, all new windows, and likewise at the BOHS, new HVAC work. So if you look at all the schools all the schools in the state, all the districts in the state, I think that you'd find that our capital improvements, our actual infrastructure of buildings, is very, very high in comparison to any others. You see it in the papers, problem that other districts have had. And because of the really careful work that Frank Rucker, our business administrator, and Mark Spino, our superintendent, have done, the amount of care that is taken for all that time and will go into the future for the actual good learning environment. So I'm really excited. I think that since the merger, this district has shown, it's a shining example of positive educational opportunity. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Other questions related to the school board that I can answer or that I won't be able to answer? You can ask them anyway. Okay, I don't see anything, so
Okay, if there are no other questions, we're going to wind down this meeting. I'd like to say just a few things. First of all, thank you, Brian, for representing us on the district and doing such a good job. John Murphy is going off the board after many years of fiercely dedicated service to all the towns. Sean has been one of a kind in terms of the numbers and understanding budgets, better than anyone except Frank Rucker in the district. I want to say if you walked across the parking lot and didn't fall down because of the sand, if you were able to park here, you can thank MT3 and Mike Chuck, who does the plowing here at the BBCC for free as a service to the town. And lastly, I've been informed that I made a mistake in my announcement about the sugar on snow. So you could walk in. You can try that, but you will not get a seat in the middle seating, which is sold out, and you're strongly encouraged to take the handout home with you that was on your seat and make a reservation. 3 seatings, and we hope to see you there. Ellie.
Just quickly, I have some extra homestead declaration forms with the directions and the front page of the Vermont Department of Taxes booklet, which has the number to contact them if you need help. So please take some if you need some. And also, there's yellow paper has lists of upcoming meetings for the school, and I appreciate Brian also doing that. And 2 upcoming rabies clinics that will occur at the town office in conjunction with the animal control officer and Dr. Kokodas, who's a veterinarian, and they'll be doing rabies shots. And again, the homestead declaration is due by 4/15. That's the date, April 15th. If you want to avoid a late fee and penalties, which show up on your tax bill. So, that's all I gotta say. Thanks.
Town meeting is Saturday, March 1st at the Guilford Central School in the gym. It starts at 10. That's for floor voting. Saturday, March 1st. And voting is back here at the Brattleboro Community Center on March 4th, Tuesday, Vermont's Town Meeting Day. Did I say that? Brattleboro Community Center?
Voting is from 10 to 7 on Tuesday.
Tuesday, March 4th for voting. Saturday, March 1st for Guilford's Town Meeting. Thank you.
Voting Tuesday, March 4th, here at the BBCC. Don't go to the gym to vote because it won't get in. I think we're ready to adjourn, and I want to thank everyone for coming, and let's have a good town meeting.